everybody. Welcome to the 10th, I think, 10th or 11th, 10th, whatever it is, the final Red State of the Union Q&A class. I'm Kevin Smith. Thanks for coming out. It was an unorthodox idea at the top when we were trying to say, hey, come out and do this Red State of the Union Q&A thing. Y'all jumped in, did it. Thank you. It was now easy to kind of explain to the world. We put it up there. It's much easier to kind of get your head around and shit like that. But you guys were the 50 adventurous souls that did it first. So give yourselves a big round of applause. Next time we all come together, we'll be watching the flick. And that'll probably be that week immediately post Sundance. But for tonight, we're going to watch a very long clip compared to what we've been used to watching. This is the longest clip we've seen yet of Red State, and it's spoiler-filled, so I'm probably not going to put that out in the actual podcast. Matt, you ready to roll? We're going to roll, and then I'll come back and chit-chat, and then we'll get into talking with Michael. So enjoy.
Welcome, family.
Good evening.
Good evening, Grandpa.
Good evening. What's the good about it? Psalms 117, verse 24. This is the day which the Lord hath made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. Oh, it's me if I preach not the gospels. Corinthians 9:16.
Amen, Grandpa.
Oh, well, I got an amen. A little baby Melanie. You like what Grandpa's saying every baby doll?
I do.
You do? Well, then, Grandpa, just a minute. Dang fool. Hush! Woe is unto me if I preach not the gospel.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is just a tiny piece of the best performance I've ever seen in my life, and I had the privilege of seeing it on my own set, and it all stems from one night many years ago in this town. It's about 16 years ago now, back in 1995. One night, Bob Weinstein was like, do you want to go see this new Quentin movie? And I was just like, From Dusk Till Dawn, the one that he wrote and Robert is directing. Yeah, you know, it's mine. And I was like, absolutely, man, where? And he's like, we're showing it at the Lumley in a private screening. It's going to be awesome. So, I went and, it was great. You know, From Dusk Till Dawn is a wonderful, fun fucking time. But, I had a transformative moment in the first few minutes of that movie. Anybody who knows that picture knows that in the first few minutes, Mr. Michael Parks comes in and just fucking drops a performance clinic. Well, I was unfamiliar with Mr. Michael Parks at that moment in time, but right then and there, I was beyond smitten. It was love at first sight. I was like, that's a fucking actor, man. That's somebody who can take something and deliver it in such a way where A, I don't even think he's acting anymore. B, he seems like a real individual. And C, nobody else is doing it. It's rare. When you're a creature like myself, somebody who's a fan of acting, performance, so much so the guy got into filmmaking because of it. It's rare when you find that person that does something nobody else does. The guy who really knows where the fucking puck is going, so to speak. And when the movie was over, I was there with Scott Mosier. I remember talking to him and I was just like, I'm going to work with that guy. And he was just like, who, George Clooney? And I was like, no, the guy in the beginning, man, that cop. I said, that dude's fucking genius, man. Could you imagine spending fucking a month on a set with that guy, just watching him make choices, just watching him take the dialogue and make it fucking sing? It's like writing music and then handing it to somebody who can really fucking play, like a true prodigy of what's on some instrument like this. The idea of being on a set with that kind of talent was just like, that was a goal for me. And it took a while. And I got to tell you, the movie is a dream come true on so many fucking levels. What lies in its future is yet to be seen. But I've already been paid 1,000 times over. And I say that without having made a fucking dime on the movie. I got everything I ever fucking wanted from that moment back in 95. I just want to be on a set and watch this dude fucking work. And it happened. It took 15 years to make it happen, but it fucking happened. And it was payment every day, dividends out the ass, because every day Michael Parks worked on this movie. Not only did he exceed my expectations and hopes and dreams, he fucking inspired me to go on at a time when I was just like, I'm done with this shit, this fucking business and all these people and shit like that. He reminded me that none of that shit matters. None of the Sturm and Drang matters. What matters is the fucking work, what's at the core of the goddamn work. I haven't worked with any geniuses until this movie. This man is a fucking genius. Can't say I'm the, first and foremost authority on all there is to know about Michael Parks. That definitely would belong to Quentin. But I can say that I probably must be the biggest Michael Parks fan on the planet right now. And everyone's about to join me this year. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, the guy without whom we wouldn't be standing here having this conversation, the guy without whom I wouldn't have made the best film I've ever made and beyond ever thinking I could make, Mr. Michael Parks.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
It's my theater, and I've never even gotten a standing ovation, man. That's pretty fucking impressive.
Very nice.
It's a nice piece of acting that we got to put up there. A really tremendous piece of I'm underselling it, saying a nice piece of acting. What follows it in that scene, for the scenes to come, these people are in for a ride. But you gotta, before we get there, take us way the fuck back to the beginning. Cause you're what, 70, 71? What's your real age right now?
Darling. Girl, never.
Fair enough. IMDb says 71.
1940. So I'm not there yet. 71 in April, yeah.
So 1940. Okay. When do you decide to become an actor?
1939. It was when I was driving truck for United Sanitation, I thought, I've got to do something.
So you were driving garbage truck?
No, toilets.
What do you mean, driving toilets around?
You're cleaning out toilets, you fool.
Latrines?
Four-holers, the
old
construction, Johns.
Yeah, like a porta potty.
Yeah, porta potty.
I thought you had me going back to like Little House on the Prairie. I'm like, outhouses?
Well, the equivalent, except you suck it out. But the last day on the job it was raining, and the truck locked brakes. And it was clay, wet clay, and it was November or something. I just slid on and hit this two-holer, and it and I hear, God damn son of a bitch. And the toilet's like this.
Toilet's leaning on the side?
He's back this way.
The dude's sitting on it still?
The toilet was knocked back. Oh, she's against the wall in the back. Crap, urine, everything.
Covered in content.
So, and a couple of welders come down, and I go, I'm trying to help him out. He wants to kill me. And he was trying to get his hammer out, but he had so much crap on it, it's slippery. He couldn't get his hammer. So the guy says, you better get the hell out of here, pal. I said, at the time I was doing a play, really. Because poor Vivian is a Spanish girl that played them. View from the Bridge, Arthur Miller.
Mm.
I played Rodolfo in this one, Eddie and another, but anyway, we had a love scene, and in that period, my mother used to say, get away from the heater, because you never lose the smell, So smelled like a toilet. So there was a love scene in the play that she dreaded. I mean, you could see in her eyes every night.
Because you reeked of shit?
Oh, yeah. You can't get it off. You can, I mean.
No, it's on you.
Brillo pads, nothing big. When I was a child, I used to mimic like my mother. My mother was incredible mimic voices and singer. And I would just do, somebody came around with it. Usually after they left. Once I impersonated this poor bastard. And his name was Frank James, I'll never forget. And he owned a car lot in Corona. And he had St. Vitus dance. And there I was doing him, right next to her. Well, Jesus Christ. My mother had fingers longer, and I went away from home and go bump on the head.
Because you were impersonating?
Yeah, but I didn't think it was insulting. It was just something to do.
Was it insulting?
Well, if the guy's got St. Vitus and he sees you doing it, you'd think it would be.
So you put a little spaz into the impression?
Yeah, I did it with the whole thing. Looked like Jerry Lewis on speed. And, my mother thumped me hard, boy, so I learned that. But my grandmother used to think I was funny when I was little, and I guess encouraged me. And it's fun to do. And I've been very lucky.
You have been.
Especially lately, Kevin.
Yes.
Thank you.
Let me ask you, wait, before you go any further, in terms of fun to do, is it fun? Because I've never seen somebody put in so much work and not like put in so much work and yet make it seem effortless. Is it fun?
With you it is, pal. And I mean it. Oh, my God. Tell you a brief story.
Okay.
The first 3 weeks of the Bible with John, he was a John. It was the greatest thing since sliced bread. And then he did something which I won't discuss because he's not here to defend himself. But he was cruel.
Cruel?
Cruel. And I called him on it. Well, he didn't like that. So then from then on, though I finished the picture and had to go back and do some more, which really wasn't used in the picture, on that same old road, kid.
That's an awesome John Huston, man. I felt like I was in Chinatown for a second. Why did he have you shoot stuff that he wasn't intending to use? Just that?
Did you see the snake, kid? And Ula Bergerud played Eve, and she would, and I said, Ula, I could see something was wrong. Ula, what's wrong? She said, have you seen the serpent? I said, no, it's Swedish. I said, no, I haven't. She disappeared with these trainers, a quarter mile apart. And so I went to see the serpent. I've seen it, kid. No. I said, oh my God. I said, well, I tell you, John, right now, and this is when he didn't like me. I said, I'll tell you right now that Ula, you're not going to find her in Italy much longer if you keep that son of a bitch around. The snake. What? I said, absolutely. Man. You try and tell her. You tell her. Tell her to work with that goddamn snake. She was scared to death of the snake. Near the third row, Big snake. So I said, but I have an idea. So I convinced him and Dino to use I was taking ballet classes with some Italian good instructor in Rome, because John had me doing several impersonations of animals, which he never used in the film. He shot tons of crap,
He had you doing impressions of animals?
Animals. Horses kicking, running, like a bird flying off, jumping, and, strange.
Just doing that on camera, like pretend you're a bird. You're right. He was a cruel man.
Oh, he was, yeah. But anyway, so I convinced him to use this ballet teacher, dress him up, put a costume on him, paint him so just right, and he played the snake. And he's wonderful in it. So then I was down in Florida, and the agents called and said, Otto Preminger wants to meet you. You're going to love this because they're such pricks. So I said, oh, okay. So I go up to New York. And it was the reason why it was Horton Foote, the writer, recommended me. I knew Horton, and he liked my work, and I love his work.
Whose?
Horton Foote.
You're just going to keep dropping legendary names all night, aren't you? This is okay, I'm just going to let you gloss over them, too. You're like Hortonfoot. Anyway, on to my other John Huston story. Go ahead. And Otto Preminger now. Good God, motherfucker.
Oh, yeah, they're both assholes. Pardon me. An asshole has a function. So anyway, I go up and Otto Preminger, I knock on the door. Come in! I go in, and he's sitting behind his place. And Horton's over there. So I said, hey, Horton, hello, how are you? How are you? Oh, Michael, you look good, just so do you. He says, sit down, please. I sat down, he said, honest God, truth, God, he says, John Huston tells me you're an awful person. You're impossible to work with. Awful person. John Huston tells me. I said, nice to meet you. Bye, Horton. He gets to the door. He said, where are you going? I said, I'll let you. Kind of whipping boy on his. The fuck are you? So I leave it on the agent's go. What did you do? I said, what did I do? Why do you ever ask it? The next time you ask me, I'm going to fire you. Why don't you ask what he did? Scared to death of the bastard. But he was, Sid Kaiser told a story. He was you'll love this one too. He was an assistant. Was on Exodus with Newman and the girl. They're shooting, and he's God's point of view, you know. And there's two of you see the top of Newman's head and hers. Mm-hmm. And there's an extra, it was about 18 takes, hotter than how the hell, and an extra sitting there reading the forward or something, and a big locks on his teeth. And he's kind of dizzy from the sun, you know, and he gets up and he walks right through the scene. It's like, 18th take.
Right.
And all Preminger does is this. I mean, you'll love the story because you're the antithesis. Preminger goes, kill him!
They were a little rougher in the old days, I take it. How did you get onto the Bible? How did you get that gig? How did you get a big
Tommy
studio?
Shaw. It's a little picture Browner produced thing called Wild Seed, a black and white picture, and Tommy was held it all together. There wasn't two scenes took place in the same location on that movie. Mm-hmm. Shot it in 23 days, black and white, on trains and all kinds of. Mm-hmm. And Tommy had a bulldog, he had 11 kids. And talk like that, He said, told Huston that, how wonderful I was. And so Huston said, I want you to do Abel. I said, I won't do Abel. I'll do Cain. Nothing to do with Abel. I could take a thump in the head with. He says, no, I got Richard Harris for that. I got Richard Harris. I said, what about Adamo? Adamo. Yeah, interesting. It wasn't until I was on the flight to Paris in the room. Mm-hmm. On that flight, midway, I realized that I had to be stark naked.
He didn't bring that up, or you didn't remember from the story?
I didn't even think. When Dino first had, I really was, I said, Jesus H. Christ. Over on the Buford hanging out? Anyway, that was tough.
And was it? Did he make you be naked the whole time?
Well, most of the time, yeah. Most of the time you have to put something on if I come out of brush because I might just go, bing, you never know.
Something to cover, something to protect in case you had a thorn patch.
One time, went to the rushes one time, and Savannah Mangano, who was beautiful, gorgeous. Remember Bitter Rice? You ever see that? Uh-uh. Oh, whoo. He's married to Dino. Beautiful, beautiful. And she decides to come to the rushes one day. Well, it's a day when one of the takes is bad because as I'm walking up, the wind blows the reeds right away from the front of me. They shut everything.
Right.
It'd be covered up to here most of the time.
So the reeds go away.
And I was there, there it was, and she gave me a look. It was like this. Dirty bastards. They should not have run that clip. Anyway.
How long was the Bible shoot?
Well, I was there for 6 months once, and then I went back for another 4, which we shot and never used any of it.
They didn't use anything from the 4 months. It was a big, expensive movie.
20 million at the time.
And what year is that?
63, 4.
So that's fucking huge.
Yeah, big.
Where did that lead? Where did the Bible lead? Like, Zach lead right to the next flick? Does that put you
No, I was
in those years on a fast
John
track?
Huston. No, John Huston. Man. There's a guy writing a book about John, and he called me, got hold of me. Somehow, I don't know. But anyway, I called him back.
Mm-hmm.
And as we were talking, I said, well, you know, they deified the man, and he was really mean. He was really mean. And you ever White Hunter, Black Heart? You ever read the book?
No. Saw the movie, though.
Yeah.
No.
But anyway, so he was writing a book, and he contacted this guy at 20th Century Fox. It was the head of PR. And the PR guy contacted Houston when Bob was getting ready to be opened, and he said, where should we send Park? Houston said, why not the seashells? Or just do him in?
All right, so then what happens after that movie?
What did happen? I don't know. I went up to the picture with Jennifer Jones and myself over in London. The Idol. Let's see. I didn't know. Crappy movies, a couple. Real crappy. Really crappy. And I did that 68.
Uh-huh.
I did pilot for Bronson, the series I did. I did series for a year.
Now, who came? Did somebody come to you with that, or?
Yeah, you know, the head of the studio said to the casting guy, "Yeah, you know anybody that rides a motorcycle?" And the actor, "Yeah, Michael Parks rides a motorcycle." Well, part was mine, I guess.
Really? Is that just because you knew how to ride the bike?
When I was living, I was in the '64 Triumph Bonneville at the time, and I did, but it wasn't mine. That wasn't my scene, you know. But I used to transportation for years and years. I used to ride. But anyway, so I met with the cat, read the script, said no twice, because it was at the time there was Dennis Hopper and Peter Fonda doing Easy Rider. So I thought they might catch something out of that.
Where did it air? Which network?
NBC. Nobody cares.
It went for a year?
Went for a year, but it syndicated 26 years. Same shows, 26 shows.
Just kept running and
Well,
running.
I showed them how wrong those bastards can be.
And you recorded, is that the first time you recorded an album? You recorded more than one album, I know that, like 3 albums, but was that the first one?
I recorded the first album before I did the pilot.
Uh-huh.
And probably my agent at the time, you know, mentioned to them that I sang, and so they needed something on the show, blah, 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 blah. But did no PR for it.
You didn't?
They didn't. And MGM never spent a nickel. Fortunately, Columbia had a album of the month club, and they put mine as the album of the month. And it sold 250,000 practically overnight.
Get out of here, really?
Yeah. John Carradine. Yeah, John. It was wonderful. And he lived up in out of Oxnard, and there was a place up there called the Whale's Tail.
Uh-huh.
So whenever I run into town, I run into him. He'd say, "Oh, I read." So we go and he'd tell wonderful stories, wonderful stories. And one night we're sitting there, and he's telling. Now he did 40 different productions of Hamlet, not just 40 performances. 40 different productions.
With multiple performances per production.
So he was talking about how you adjusted different Ophelias and Claudius and blah, blah, blah. And this guy comes up and like death eating a cracker, this son of a bitch. And he had stringy, shitty, dirty hair and a beard. And he says, "Yeah, man." I said, "You know, when I played Hamlet, man, I mean, Frisco, when I played Hamlet, man, I mean, Hamlet's crazy, man. I mean, if you don't get that, man, you know, he's great." Curtis said, "Well, you can blame crazy on soliloquy." He said, "I mean, what the fuck do you do?"
Who were the big names that you worked with, of the Carradine level? You worked with cats, like legendary Hollywood cats and whatnot. You didn't tell me a Betty Davis story at one point.
Betty. Loved her. She was great.
Would you work with her?
We had a little television show. She had a apartment not far from the Chateau Marmont, and she lived on the rooftop. She had a garden in her. And an actress named Mary Louise Weller, beautiful blonde actress I worked with in Florida, lived there. But most of the occupancy were gay, you know, like 80% gay. So they were talking about putting a sauna, you know. So they had this discussion. So finally this morning, Mary Sinner, he said, "Well, has anyone talked to Bats? Has anyone talked to Bats about the sauna?" You know, because they all have to go in together. So Mary looks up and she sees her. She's watering on her roof. Right on her roof. This is typical Betty. And so one looks up, "So Bats, we're talking about putting a sauna in. We want to know if you'd be interested." I said, "Putting a sauna?" She said, "I'm no Yankee pussy." Oh, boy. Yeah, I love a lot of beautiful cats. Richard Burton. There was a guy came out. We were shooting in Berlin. So the guy comes over and he says, "Why would you do this picture? This is just a poor remake of the Iron Cross by Peckinpah. Why are you doing this picture?" Burton said, "Well, love, every chance I get to kill Germans." So now we segue. He wants to go to Mitchum. I said, "This is fun." So I take him over. Bob, this guy. So he says to him, he said, "Did you? How do you approach your acting, Mr. Mitchum?" I said, "Wet my lips and walk through." He said, "Did you ever feel you were neglected because you never got the Academy Award? You never got the Academy Award?" Bob looks at me, he says, "Academy Award." He looks at the cat and he says, "My mother always told me you didn't get diamonds at Macy's." And it really says it, because what it really is about is not talent, I mean, ability. And there's probably some guy in Des Moines could wipe me out right now doing theater. I mean, I don't know, you never know. But it's opportunity. It's all opportunity, you know. And my wife despised the idea that I did this little thing with Quentin, this Dusk Till Dawn, because it didn't show. I mean, I didn't stay around long or whatever. I don't know what it means. But anyway, I said, "No, I'll have fun doing it." And thank God, because you saw it.
Yeah.
And so I got this part. But, you know, it's the opportunity. And every time I see one of those people in the Academy Awards say, you know, "I deserve this," and you want to just move in there. It's about time, one of them said. About 4 or 5 years ago, if you remember.
Yeah.
Oh, what tasteless people. Can you imagine? Hollywood.
I saw a clip online, John Gordon sent it to me a few weeks ago, where he's just like, this is Parks in a way you've never seen him before. And it was a clip from, I guess Johnny Cash had a show.
Oh, yeah.
And it was, I don't know how else to describe it, except it was essentially a music video. It was you singing the song.
Yeah, he had a 2-hour, your dad probably.
Yes.
Loved it.
Yes, no doubt.
He had a 2-hour, yeah, he was a beautiful kid. God almighty. I never heard John ever judgmental about people in years. I don't remember when. I mean, I am sometimes, but John wasn't judgmental at all. Oh my God. When I did his show, it was at the old Ryman, you know, the old opera house, Grand Opera. And I'm in the wings, and he's introducing me. Right at the moment he's introducing me, and the introduction was like, "Tonight on our show, we have for you, direct from Hollywood, California, you know, Michael." And just as he's doing this, George Gobel comes up. You remember George?
Yeah, an old comedian. Yeah.
Oh, goddamn. And he had this enormous Stetson on. It looked like a mushroom, you know, he's short. And he had an oversized guitar. And he says to me, "Want a drink?" I said, no, not right now, not right now. He says, "You smoke?" I said, no, not right now, no. He said, "You mean you go out there alone?"
So that appearance that I saw, that clip, that wasn't just a one-time thing. You were actually friends with Johnny Cash.
Well, no, I never met him. I'd known, but of course, for years, and he was a fan of the show. When he called me, I couldn't. I got arrested at that time, and I wasn't allowed to work on any networks.
Who got arrested?
Couldn't get arrested.
Okay, I was like, oh shit.
Big difference.
Yes.
Wouldn't have minded. But anyway, when he said, "Would you do my show?" I said, "You bet." I said, I was so poor I couldn't afford to pay attention. And I said, "Well, how much you get? How much do you for the show?" He says, "They pay $7,500, Michael." I said, "Can you get me 10,000?" I'm not good at that. I'm not good at that. So, I'll call you right. He called me 5 minutes. "You got 10,000. Will you do my show now?" I said, "Yes, sir." Had a great time with him. We went to Smithville. It was the only time he took off during the whole season of filming. We hung out in Smithville. I told him he never ridden a motorcycle. I was teaching him how to ride.
And that's what you guys are doing in that clip.
In that clip, they showed a piece of it.
Yeah. Of you guys riding.
It wasn't really a big bike. I forget. It was a little dirt bike.
And you guys did you stay friends after that?
No, I don't stay friends with much of anybody. I mean, I call him, every now and then. He'd come out and do a concert. He'd get a hold of me if he was in Anaheim or something. Give me seats. He was a sweetheart.
What was the Lenny Bruce story? Did you pallbearer for Lenny Bruce?
Lenny was, there was a cat named Enrico Banducci, who owned a restaurant up North Beach, and it was the only outdoor restaurant in North Beach. And he owned the Hungry Eye also.
Mm-hmm.
Lenny worked there. He worked at Hungry Eye, and it was a place to hang out. It was a place to. Enrico's had big booths, leather booths, and a lot of laughs, a lot of jokes. Lenny was one time, 1961, maybe. It's right where the La Cienega and Sunset, and right on the corner there, when I told you like a 5-star, was the first Playboy
club.
Yeah, so Lenny was playing there. So I went by. Now we come out, and at that time, at 3 o'clock in the morning, because we hung out inside for a while, and at 3 o'clock in the morning, you could shoot a cannon down Sunset. I mean, there was no cars, And I had 2 joints of Acapulco Gold. And at that time, you got 5 years for a joint in California. And Lenny's got hypodermics on him. Now, he's talking to these 2 hookers, bookends, except one was black, one was white. They dressed alike, looked alike, except one black, one white. And I see the cops. And they're driving slow down and says, "We're the only clowns right out front of the playground." I mean, 2 hookers, obvious. So I'm thinking, Jesus Christ, what the heck? So I said, Lenny. He said, "Yeah, man." I said, Bing and Bob. Bing and Bob.
Bing and Bob?
Bing and Bob was an old jazz term that musicians, because Bing Crosby and Bob Crosby could drink all they fucking wanted to, but if the band drank, they were fired. so they became so they became the cops. Bing and Bob then became cops. I said, "Bing and Bob." He said, he looked at Sam, he said, "Fuck him, let him get their own shit." He goes, I don't have a watch, but I pretended I did. And I look at my watch, just as they're coming up, I look at my watch, and I'm thinking, gee, and I look at it, and I see the cops, and I go, yes, look at this idiot. You know, and they went.
They just waved you on.
I could kill him. I said, you son of a bitch. But he was brilliant.
Yeah.
Lenny was something. And a good cat. Really good cat. Good-hearted cat.
What, now, tell me the story about Lew Wasserman.
I don't know if I told you. He talked like this in a impediment speech, just like this. The same Norton Simon. Norton Simon had the same impediment. So he tells me a story one time that he thought was wonderful. And when this period when I was the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Right.
And in his eyes, and he was God. I mean, he really was the most powerful man in that.
Wasserman.
Yeah, in the business for years.
Lew Wasserman was a dude that used to run Universal, not just Universal, but
Decca, MCA, what?
Yeah. Music as well, big time. He was, I mean.
Well, here's how he got into it. Here's the story to me. He was proud of the story. It was the most chilling story, one of the most chilling fucking stories I ever heard. He said he wanted to get. He was in music publishing. He and Jules Stein, so he wanted to get in as an agent. So he writes all these cats that went away to war, Second World War time. Clark Gable, Tyrone Power, Jimmy Stewart. He writes them all a letter, and he said, because they all signed for $600 a week in case something happened to them. I mean, the wife might, So they all say. So he wrote a letter saying, if you sign with me as your representation, I will pay for all court costs. I'll break your contract with the major studios. Well, they all signed. But, what's his name? Said, he's still alive, so I can't. He says to Lew, well, they're going to sue. They're going to sue. And Wasserman said, let them sue. Captain Clark Gable, Sergeant Tyrone Power, Sergeant John Garfield. I mean, and in one move. And he owned the cream of the crop in Hollywood.
He consolidated power in
one
that
move.
way.
One letter, he put different names on it. One move, he owned it. I mean, the studios all had come. Everybody had to come to him if you wanted any of those people.
What? So how do you guys intersect? And what's the moment?
I was working for Dick Powell, who was the sweetest guy in captivity.
Mm-hmm.
And he and David Niven owned studio. They call it 4 Stars at Republic Studios.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, Dick, I had loved him to death. Before every take, he'd say, God is love. No matter what you did in the scene, which had nothing to do with God is love, maybe,
He would literally say, God is love.
God is love. And you'd start the scene. But you felt anchored by him. He was a wonderful cat. In fact, they gave him, the bank gave him $35 million, which was a lot of money at the time, to do some other productions. More, he had like 6 series on the air.
Right.
7, I think. And, because I did them all. But when he took the money, and then he found out he had cancer. 6 months to live, so he went to the bank and said, I can't take your money. A rare cat. Because he was the guy that was going to make it happen.
Right.
He didn't take that. Well, I thought it was rare. You don't hear of it.
Yeah, to go back and be like, hey, I'm going to die, so take your money.
No.
Yeah, that is rare.
Yeah, boy. But anyway, and then they used to make you audition in those days. So I had 57 or some auditions for this friend. Frank Silvera told the director, I've got the guy, I'll bring him in. So I went in and sang for him, whatever it was, and read the scenes or whatever. And the guy said, yeah. It was at Universal, and it was a show called An Obelisk for Benny. And a fellow named William Wood wrote it. It was a hell of a good writer. He went back to teach at the University of the Midwest in Illinois. And they couldn't take Gollywood. So, and Wasserman saw it because it was the first of the season and said, we'll make him a star. But, you know, you find out over the years that it's not, because he was, when I had problems with when they withheld money and I sued them and I won. Because Garner had set the precedent, you know.
James Garner?
Yeah. The judge said, least you can do is pay the man, you know, out of the contract. So they said, okay, we'll go to trial. I said, let's go. So I went to Cloudcroft, New Mexico, and chopped wood for a living and sit and waited. Of course, 2 months before the trial, they called and said, why don't you do the movie? The agents call. They just want you to do movie of the week, you know, and then you get out of your contract. I mean, that's nice of them. You chop wood, you son of a bitch. But anyway. Anyway, so, but I did. I went back and when I did the Bronson pilot for MGM, 7 o'clock in the morning in my house, there was a guy, a chauffeur, come up with a telegram. First one, you always will be a wonderful talent, Lou Wasserman. So he was not, you know, here we go. And,
So he sent you an encouraging telegram. Favorable. Yeah, congratulatory telegram.
Well, yeah. It was not, and I never had if it's something, you know, we all have regrets and shame, and if you don't, you aren't worth a pile of beans. It's the only way you learn.
Yeah.
And he was never rude, really, to me, except once, and I was rude back. But I shouldn't have been. I should have just looked at him, would have been enough. But I didn't. I had to respond. But he said, you know, this is a small town, Michael, you know, where it's very close-knit here. And, I have 4,000 people in my family, you know, doing one of those fucking lines. But anyway, so, and sometimes, you know, you have problems, it's difficult to find work, you know, like I said.
Yeah.
And out his window, because he made all the people in this building sit with their back to the window. No view for you, pal. You go to work. And you could walk in, you could see the whole valley. You know, that monster.
Beautiful view, yeah.
Monster black.
Yeah, the Black Tower.
Obelisk. Yeah. Then he said, come on. And I said, oh, really? I said, is that yours? I pointed over his shoulder, and it was Warner Brothers. Well, he turned around with that look, and I would see the thermometer was like this again. Close to his brain. And thanks for coming in, I said, and I knew that I shouldn't have, because he was right. You know, those cats all ate together, drank together, talked together, played golf together.
Small town.
It's small town. So all they have to hear is trouble.
But that comment was enough just for you to be like, is Warner Brothers yours? That was enough for that dude to be like, we're done here?
Piss him off. Oh, you mean my attitude?
Well, for him.
Oh, for him, yeah. For him it was an insult. Yeah, it was terrible. I shouldn't have done it. I was much too frisky. I should have just said, well, you're right, and gone on with what I was doing anyway. It's been all right.
And what year is that? Around Bronson?
You know the story about this guy's, he's an avid reader of Westerns, and he works at the university. He used to run the New Yorker. So he calls this kid and he says, he sees this old cowboy, 112, just died down in Texas, a very famous bronc rider, you know. So he calls this kid and he said, I want you to cover this story. And that's a novelty, even New Yorker, but I want you to cover this. It's a well-respected bronc bull rider and all. Okay. So it goes down in Texas, as you folks might know, that outside all those little towns, the graveyard's about, 5 to 10 miles out of town. So they're out the graveyard, and kid's watching the guy. He looks up against this cottonwood, and this gnarled old cowboy, looks like a Remington, standing against the cottonwood. And kid goes over and he says, hi, how are you? He said, did you know the deceased? I said, we went to school together. He said, you went to school together? Yeah. I said, really? Were you in the same grade? He said, 2 years later. He said, you were 2 years ahead of him. He said, yeah. I said, well, how old are you? He said, I'm 114 come June. He said, really? Right? He said, it doesn't make too much sense that you go back to town. And when you talk to me about the past, I feel like that old guy. But I'm happy to do that. What is it you wanted to know, Mr. Smith?
So is that moment... Is that moment defining moment? Does that moment hurt the career? Does he make it his mission
not,
in life?
you know, it's not them. Like the point I was trying to make, it's not really them. It's those scurvy bastards that work for him. Right. Because they never have the balls to say, well, I don't blame them, but they don't, most of them don't have the balls to say to the boss, are you nuts? Or something, they don't have that. Or it's down the road, Joe, So they don't, and they resent you for it. If you call somebody on something, they resent you. They're the ones that kept me from working. It wasn't Wasserman. Wasserman would have been happy if I'd have come back and did a movie or something. It wouldn't have bothered him. Mm-hmm. Funny, isn't it?
It is
true. But that's what it is. I mean it. The lieutenants are always the bastards.
And do you think there was definitely a kind of like stay away from him, he's trouble?
Oh, no. Sarnoff, NBC did it. But we don't want to, I'm not here to, my Uncle Pruitt, I said to him one time, why don't you ever complain? He said, well, Topper, call me Topper, I don't think I could draw a crowd. I loved him for that. And I'm not here to complain.
No.
I'm not really.
No, but it's an important part of the narrative because thank God Quentin does put you in From Dusk Till Dawn because I probably wouldn't have known. I wouldn't.
Yeah, my God. I knew Quentin before he did anything. There was a gal that's blonde, really pretty, and she wanted to manage me. Mm-hmm. And we talked about it briefly, and then she called one day and said, the best thing we can do is, people really love you. We should get the people that really love you, like Marlon Brando, people like that, to say, I said, Pasadena. I mean, I can't walk around with my hat in my hand. It'd be sad. So we parted, sweet, parted. And then about 6 months later, she goes, there's this writer who wants to meet you. You're his favorite actor. And I said, oh, really? And she said, now, I've read some of his scripts. He hasn't done anything yet. Hasn't done any movies yet, but he'd like to meet you. I said, well, if he hasn't done anything, he doesn't know everything. I'd be glad to meet him. So we met. We had a... That's true, you don't know. And we met and played a couple games of pool, had a couple beers. He gave me a bunch of his scripts to read. I read them. I said, okay, go on, you're funny. I know that about it, man. You're funny. Keep at it. And then one day I was living on a houseboat up a cement. It was so small, if you got on, I'd have to get off. And it was up out of Seattle, in the San Juan Islands. Because Andy McLaughlin lived up there. And I went up to visit him. He said, why don't you stay up here, kid? So I went down, I rented a little boat. Oops. And I get up one morning and I go into town and there's a newspaper stand and I opened the newspaper and it was Academy Awards Day for a little bit I know. Fuck, I'm a polar bear. So I said, oh, and I see the picture of this goofy bastard sitting up with the Academy Award and it's Quentin. I said, I knew that guy. But I didn't, I didn't call him. So, but he called one day. Hey, man. And he'd written a script called Kill Bill, which was about Earl McGraw, the whole movie. He shelved it. And I couldn't get anybody's, attention with it or something. And
wait, the original script for Kill Bill?
It was called Kill Bill. It was all about Earl McGraw. It had nothing to do with the Kill Bill movies. So he later took that title and put it on the movies. Right. What are you going to call it? Ching Wan Cha? Yeah. So anyway, somebody speaks Mandarin. So anyway, so then and then when he called and hey man, I want you to, but it was Rodriguez's idea, and it just goes to show you about what it can mean. I mean, was I a day late on this show? Was I a minute late? Was I a second late?
No.
Did I ask for more takes?
No.
One time, 4 lines. And you helped. I'll never forget that. You said to me, it was perfect. It took it just a little right to perfect. Here's you. You said, be even sweeter. You remember that? Yeah. But anyway, so Robert said, from Dusk Till Dawn, he said, why don't you take that character of McGraw and put him up front in this movie? Put him up front in the scene in the movie. And Quentin said, hey, man, I don't know if I can work with him, man. I mean, I don't know. Maybe he's hard to, Rodriguez said, what the fuck's wrong with you? I mean, you love the guy. Why don't you fucking hire him? Get it over with. So he did. And thanks to Robert. Really, Robert told me.
Gave him a push.
Yeah. Yeah, he's Quentin's. Lovely. Yeah, he's a strange bird. And,
Quentin is.
Yeah, but he's wonderful. There's generous to a fault.
Mm-hmm.
Like Robert, both are very, very generous.
What's and they are both kind of geeky about performance too. I imagine they just loved watching.
Rodriguez,
you go.
when I did that picture, he's a bastard. When I did the picture, Dusk Till Dawn, I do the scene, and he said, "Fantastic, man. Want to do it again?" I said, well, didn't you get it? He said, yeah, man, I just like to see you act. I said, oh, fuck. He said, but you think he's on heroin. You would swear, because it can be moving the world around him on the set, and he sits and strums the guitar, plays. I already thought, the story about the junkie who goes in the barber shop. Immediately, long beard, long hair, he nods out. And the barber comes and says, can I help you, pal? He said, should me a shave and a haircut. I said, well, if you want to shave, you got to lift your goddamn chin off your chest. He goes, oh, fuck it, just give me a haircut. But Robert makes you think, doesn't it? And he's right. The first time I watched him work, I said, yeah, I got to get some of these guys. But he's like that on the Natch. He's like that. Sweet guy.
So you did that, you did the what was it called? Grindhouse, Death Proof, Planetary. You did the Hangman, from Dusk Till Dawn too.
Yeah.
Was it Hangman's?
Oh, man, they kept me working for a while.
Yeah.
I think, but Hollywood can be a one-night stand, Kevin, you know that.
I don't know. Hollywood's ignored me, so I don't even know if it's a one-night stand.
Yeah, I love you. And then the next picture, they never heard again.
Right.
Yeah, it is. But I'll work with you again, I know that.
Yeah, no doubt. I need you to do French Canadian in the
we'll
next
do
flick.
that for you.
Yes. You have a little experience doing that. You played one of the Renaults. Was it Jean Renault or Jacques Renault? Jean Renault.
When I did this show, funny enough, I was staying at the
Twin Peaks.
Yeah, the chateau, and they were shooting out here in the valley, Bristol Valley. And so I go, and this decidedly Jewish chick comes up to me, and she's directress, and she says, oh, it's so wonderful to have you. I just love your work. I said, thank you very much. She said, well, what makes you decide to do a show like this? I said, well, character. I love doing dialect. She said, you're doing a dialect? I said, yeah, it's French Canadian. She said, oh, just a minute. I'll be right back. Well, I didn't know, but she went in and she called Frost. Because she said in French, she said, your brothers, the Renault, they didn't have an accent. I said, that's their problem, sweetie. So she goes in and she calls him. Frost said, let him do what he wants. One time at Universal, you'll love this. One time at Universal, I'm doing this It was the first 2-hour movie ever done for television. Henry Fonda and myself. And Ann Baxter. And Sal Mineo had a part in it. So I do this. It was Terry Southern, who's a good friend of mine, the writer, Terry Southern.
Terry Southern of Doctor Strangelove fame,
he's
amongst other
one of the
things.
closest friends maybe I ever had.
Really?
Yeah, lovely. Funny.
Yeah, well, shit, Christ, yes.
But he loved that show. I did better than any show I saw. It was a thick, we couldn't cut it, the accent. around Turner Finchie and it like, what I'm doing right now, and it was just right on.
It was that thick?
Yeah, boy. So they, now, they view it at this guy, the guy, shall go nameless, views it at his house. I found out later it's the reason, because they asked me to loop it. Mm-hmm. Just do it straight. I said, no, what are you talking about? The handlebar, the hole, chewed tobacco hole. Right there, it was right there. I really enjoyed that. Well, if you don't, I get this call from this guy. We got Doug McClure, and I love Doug. He was a sweet guy. Doug was very good at voices, by the way. Mm. But he said, we got Doug McClure, we got so-and-so, we got so-and-so. I named them people. I said, okay, go ahead. But watch yourself on the way home at night. So the agents called a couple days later and said, no, you don't have to loop it. It's all right, they like it. But I found out... But I found out that, and I probably shouldn't have told that story, but sometimes... I found out that his mother from Brooklyn had seen the showing at his house before it was on the air, of course, and said, I don't understand. What's he talking? And that's what made him say, oh, we've got to loop this.
Because his mom couldn't understand it?
His mother, his darling mother. But that's what I found out. Cat that lived there. Yeah, God Almighty. And they would do it in a heartbeat. They wouldn't care. Mm. They wouldn't care. If you sounded like Tony Curtis. That was a good cat.
You knew them as well?
Yeah, we worked together, did a picture together called Club Life. Mm-hmm. He was the owner of the club and I was the bouncer.
Good dude.
Quentin stole a couple of lines of mine out of there and put them in Kill Bill.
Which ones?
Never mind. He would tell you.
How's he work?
I know he's successful.
Well, this is true. I guess there's that. What on a set is he just? Can he put the fan hat away and be Michael Parks director? I found that very difficult to do.
Well, you shouldn't if you like it.
Well, I mean, anytime there was something off the beaten path, which was almost never, I was there. But generally speaking, when somebody is crushing it, there's nothing to say after every take except like, great, let's go again, just the fuck of it, stuff like that. And sometimes we didn't even go again.
No, I didn't. I never want to if you like it. I mean, I don't have to like it. I mean, I finish a scene and a millisecond later I'm saying I should have done something different there.
No.
Yeah. We can go on and on and on and on. Could dissect and do it all together differently. Or maybe a shade touch better. It should have been that. And you can go all fucking year with that.
Right.
You can just beat it to death, for God's sake.
Which do you like better then? Do you want to do it in one and move on, or do you want?
Well, if it happens, it's happening. If it's moving along, why not?
That happened quite a bit on this flick.
98% of the time.
Yeah, totally. It was when you see the performance, Michael's performance in the movie, know that that's not cut from fucking reams of footage. There's a lot of that stuff that's cut from the one and only take of it in existence, but it was that strong. Let's talk about the chapel sequence, because they saw a good 10 minutes of it, and so we've got a basis grounds for them to kind of know what we're talking about, as opposed to normally we're always talking in hypotheticals. You came to the set, Chucks, let me see, the week of production when we were starting with the boys, you came out and, you were like, can I see the chapel? Is the chapel done yet? And, based on the budget, of course, we were always kind of, doing things as late as we possibly could. So as not to spend money, too soon or whatever. But we had a floor down for the chapel already. So I was like, yeah, totally. We'll get you over there. You could kind of hit the chapel floor. And then I didn't know what it was that you wanted. I just assumed you just wanted to see the lay of the land. But you then went to work, I guess, you'd have the script for 2-3 months or something like that. You had it mapped out like a dance floor. It was amazing. It was one of those things that I never thought about when I was writing it. There's very little screen direction about he moves over here, he comes down from
I had no idea.
No.
What you said to me, I wanted to just see it because in my mind I needed to see it so that I could see myself up there.
Right.
That's all I needed was to see what motel you're staying in for the next 6 months, in the movie,
Right.
But no, you said, well, Adam, why don't you go map it out with him?
Yeah.
I said, what are you talking about? So I went over with him and I just started talking and I'd walk and he'd make a mark and then I had to live with it. And that's the story.
That's it? You didn't really?
Yeah. And I tell you,
I've been out there telling people like this motherfucker came with a fucking dance floor. It was amazing.
No.
He knew exactly where to stand at every given point.
And I read the script once when he sent it to me. And then I didn't read it until about a week or 2 weeks before we started because you didn't have the money.
That's right. Good point.
And I thought, why study this son of a bitch if it doesn't happen? I mean, that's really masturbatory. So anyway, but that's the truth. And I went out to that day just to see because they said, yeah, you can see the chapel.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to see if there was a podium, if there was whatever on there, and how big it was and what I had to reflect to. No. Why don't you map it out? He says. I'll tell you a funny story. Lady Coral Brown, actress, and she had a wooden leg, actually. She was married to Vincent Price.
Mm-hmm.
And wonderful character. And she had receding and thinning hair, so which really was important to her. And the ladies wanted to say it was a good wig. Whenever production she was in, she needed the wig. So this little cheapo producer, he gets this goddamn wig and it's like a fucking scouring pad, So she comes out and it's costume fitting in the room. So she's really mad. And the little cat out there, stage manager, everything. She said, I absolutely love that brooch. Absolutely love it. I think it's perfect. And the shoes, of course. And that parasol you enter. Oh my God, what a touch, she says. What about the wig? He said, the wig? He said, well, from here, it looks absolutely marvelous. He said, well, from here, it's like looking through a yak's asshole. So it does mean something, character. I mean, the clothes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, Beth said that it was, when she was all done, because sometimes the costume designer will go out with cast and do clothes, pick out stuff. But she said that's the longest I've ever spent with an actor. She's going, I can't tell you how much thought he put into each piece of clothing, right down to the socks and underwear.
And she's very sweet. I love that.
So I got over that by giving it over to you, by just being like, you know what? Let him pick it, because he's got to wear that outfit the whole flick, and he's got to be comfortable in those clothes.
Well, he's a man of modest means. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And that's the first all-important thing. I'll tell you a Jean Renoir story.
Mm-hmm.
Jean was doing Swamp Water. And, there's production managers right away want to prove to the director and the producer how clever they are, I mean, it's their job.
Right.
So he says to Jean, exceedingly French, and he says to him, how many chickens you want, Mr. Renoir, at the meeting? He said, chicken? One. One. So all the way through the picture, the guy's trying to give him goats. He's trying to give him, because he's embarrassed about the picture. Sure, you don't want a couple dogs, Wonderful story. For me.
Is that the end of that story?
Well, yes, it is, because that's their job. That's their job, is to give you nothing and be happy with it. But the guy was so embarrassed that he's a poor man, So the guy's job was over. So he had to, try to get him to use more animals. And a very giving man. When he did Diary of a Chambermaid with Pollock Goddard and
Renoir.
Yeah. He was coming back from Europe, through New York, and he sailed on a boat, he and Dito, and then they went to New Orleans. And in New Orleans, he runs into the decorator, set designer. And so he goes, and he's sitting at the Pontalba, which is right on Jackson Square. So he came up to have coffee with him, and opened the windows out to nice veranda and everything at Jackson Square, history. Jean said, "Isn't it lovely? Lovely." He said, yeah. So now he gets back to Hollywood, and just before the picture's about to start, he says, "John, come down, I want you to see the set." And the guy had rebuilt. It spent all of his goddamn budget building this set he didn't even want. Renoir. But Renoir used it without saying a goddamn thing.
Why? Just that guy?
That's the way he was. That's the way he was. I mean, he couldn't.
He just played the ball where it laid.
Where it laid, yeah.
Wasn't a screamer.
Went right on with it. That was Jean. One of the great stories of acting is Jean Gabin, and I can't think of he was a lovely actor, French actor, and he was also in Rules of the Game. Played the owner of the machine, and he was the Baron. But there's a scene with Jean Gabin and Jean said it was his favorite scene. He said it was the best scene he thought he had ever written, and it's when they're near the border and the Swiss car is on him. And he's screaming at the guy. And Jean came and said, "Good morning, Jean. Good morning, good morning." He said, "Well," he goes to get coffee. He goes back and they're gone. He looks down the hill and they're standing there, Gabin and the other actor. And he goes down and he says, "Well, would you like to rehearse?" And they said, Jean Gabin said, "We can't say these lines, Jean." Unfortunately, he'd been shooting in sequence. And I said, "What did you say?" And he said, "Of course you can't." And they went down to a restaurant, and in 45 minutes they had a scene they cooked, because they had alleviated all that was done in the past from the scene, incorporated what was right in the present, and had the look of leaving in it. I mean, that's the kind of man.
He was just committed. He believed in the art. It certainly wasn't a business for this man at all.
Well, I don't know. I think he did a few pictures to save his ass.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
You've been doing this longer than anybody in this room and probably anybody listening. Is it okay to do... It's fair enough. Is it okay... As a dude who has been doing it for years, you have the sum total of wisdom on your side. So naturally, I'm always going to lend more credence to somebody who's been doing it longer than some jackass who's A, never done it, or B, doesn't understand what longevity means. Is it okay to do one for the money every once in a while?
What are you talking about? Why? Listen, I got 2 dogs. I got a house you got to pay for.
Right.
And I'm married to an Italian that eats. Eats. And that doesn't come free. It doesn't come free. I wanted to work with you because I liked you. I liked you and I liked John. That was important to me. And I thought I could do something with it.
Oh, you did? Yeah.
But we don't know. We do the critics get a hold of this one. Oh, boy. George Bernard Shaw said a critic was a guy that knew how to get there. He didn't know how to drive the car. Yeah. You drive a good car, pal.
Me? No, I just.
Yes, you do. Yes,
I've watched a lot of people drive over the years, and I'm very much like a critic. I know how to get there. I'm just not quite sure how the car works.
Well, you siphon the gas.
That I did. Was it ever fun? Was it as fun for you to do as it was for us to watch, or at least me?
Oh, sure. Well, no. The fun is in knowing, it's cooking, knowing that you're going to be pleased. That's fun. That's really fun. Why else? I mean, I don't want to go into how boring actors are. And how they love themselves so much. I'm scared to death all the time.
Of what?
Of acting.
Why?
Well, because, it's difficult. It's not easy. It's difficult. And any fool that tells you it's not isn't worth his salt. A funny story to tell you. I was on a plane one time going to New York to a movie of the week, I think it was. Money.
Right.
And this guy comes up to me and says, "How you doing? How are you doing?" I forget his name, George Spitley or whatever. I said, "Can I sit down?" I said, "Okay." Yeah. He said, "Was that a movie script you're reading?" I said, "Yeah." I put it away. I said, Yeah. No, it was television. Oh, he said, "You know Mickey Rooney?" I said, no, I've never met him. He said, "Well, he came, a guy called me, he said, Mickey Rooney's coming out, we're from Des Moines." I said, "Yeah." He said, and Mickey Rooney's coming out, and what the deal is, you can buy a point in the picture, something like for $20,000, something like that. It might be interesting. He wants looking for financing, and he's going to be talking at the club tomorrow night, why don't you come out and listen?" Okay, so he goes out. He said, "He's a little guy, he says to me, "Little guy." I said, "Yeah." He said, "He's sitting up on the piano with his legs crossed, like a chanteuse," he said, sitting there. He said, and he's telling us the story. He said, God damn, it went on and on and on and on. Story. But he said, in the story, it's a story about a guy condemned to death, and in the last shot of the picture, they fry the bastard, and then the camera pans down. I said, he said, Rooney says, you shit when you die, He said, so the camera pans down the leg, and he follows the shit down onto the floor. And he said, and there's a big puddle of shit, and it says, "The end." And I said, well, so that's question and answer time. I said, "Well, Mr. Rooney," he said, "let me ask you a question." He said, when you're panning down on the defecation's running down his leg, he said, "Now, do you use a tube or something and put some gravy in it or something like that?" He said, "Oh, hell," he said, "any actor that can't shit on cue isn't worth his salt." He said, "I took my 20,000. True story, boy.
While we were making this flick, I talked about it on another podcast recently, but in the script there were one or two places that called for doing an old church hymnal. You always had a better church hymnal. I think one time I'd written one in, and it was just wholly inappropriate for that particular denomination or a Baptist leaning or Baptist seeming faith. You had excellent suggestions for two songs right away, and then when you sang them in the movie on the day, it was so fucking beautiful. I knew we were on to something. People kept coming up to me throughout that day, through the rest of the week, then for the rest of the show, going, "You're going to use that whole song, right? When he sings, you're going to use all of it, right?" I said, "Yeah, I'm going to use all of it." They're like, "It's so fucking haunting. When he sings, it's really, really beautiful. It's kind of sweet. Even though we're in the midst of this horror movie, there's something really nice about it." And people fell in love with it so much that every once in a while I'd be like, "You know what, man? Here's another place where we could put a song. You want to sing something here?" And Michael would be like, "Well, we could try this. I like this song. This would make sense here, blah, blah, blah." All of them, of course, public domain, or as public domain as we could get them. But at a certain point, I think it was the fourth time I asked you to sing, you were finally like, "What the fuck is this, an Elvis picture?" But it was a really, I think we found a way to incorporate singing in a way that took away the need for anything else. You know what I'm saying? Like this movie's dry. I don't put a score or a soundtrack, in the flick at all. We play it pretty fucking dry. The only time you hear music in the movie is when you're singing or playing and stuff like that. Did you know going in, did you like, I want to sing as much as possible, or was that just kind of like when it happened?
Oh, God, no.
No.
No. You wanted the opening song
Yes.
when we first introduced the congregation and myself. And that was all I thought I'd be doing.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you what he did to me. At the end of the picture, you get credit. So he says, listen, Michael, I got 5 minutes I want you to fill. I said, what about 15 seconds? What about 15 seconds? No, and it turned out to be 6, something like that.
6 minutes. It's the best fucking credit sequence to a movie I think you've seen in like 10 years. It is
What?
ripping. Yes.
More than that.
You're right. Ever.
I jest.
No, you're not jesting. They'll see.
What?
They'll see soon. I'm going to open up to them. We're going to see what they're going to ask you some questions. I've been asking too many. Let me grab that mic and we'll go somewhere in the audience. Here's right here. Ask a question of Mr. Michael Parks.
You've accomplished so much in your career. Is there anything left that you still are looking forward to that you'd still like to accomplish?
What the hell? Did you think I'd quit? No, I think it's all there to come for me. Yeah, there's some roles I would gladly do, love to do, and I'm going to do an album, which is going to be a kick.
Yeah, that is. Can I talk about that a little bit?
You do it all you want.
We, based on all the singing in the flick, at one point, John Gordon had a real fucking brain fart, kind of cool brain fart moment, where he was just like, let's re-record the songs with Michael. Because all the songs in the movie were sung on the set. Like, we didn't go into a sound booth or anything like that. Most of the stuff was just sung there. So when you hear him singing, it's just kind of singing on the set. So John was like, maybe we can go into the studio and do
all of it is.
Yeah. Well, yeah, pretty much. He said, we'll go into the studio and re-record the songs, not for the movie, just to complement the movie. And I was like, all right, let's do it. And they went in last week. What was it, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday or something like that? And they sent, John sent me the songs, and they're fucking beautiful. They're just so, so good. And they'll kind of stand on their own without the movie too. Oddly enough, they'll stand up as like, Christian spirituals. And as long as nobody ever says, oh, it's from that horror movie that the fat clerks guy made, no one will ever know. So as we were recording, those, or as you guys were recording those, I guess the project came up, like Michael's got an album that he wanted to do. And John Gordon was just like, we got to make this album. Let's make the album, man. And I was like, totally, let's fucking do it. Cause Michael's singing is really fucking beautiful. And the singing and the album he's talking about doing is, to say that country tinged is fair, correct?
Country blues jazz influence.
Jazz, more jazz influence as well?
A lot of jazz influence in country. You can. To me, it's, Charlie Parker, the Bird, that was a bass player, used to play with him. And there was a little joint in New York they used to hang out in a little bar. And they had a jukebox. And Bird was always dropping quarters and playing country songs, And this other cat said, I don't understand what's wrong with you. He said, why you playing that? Why you playing them songs? He said, listen to the story. And it's very true, because in a lot of jazz, it gets awfully she for me. A lot of country gets twangy and crappy. I mean, I can't take most country music today. It's anthems. I think they all want to be Dionne, what's her name? The way they sing now, it's not really country. And the lyrics, mundane, I pulled her on the back of that truck. Boy, did we. Fuck that stuff. It's awful stuff. But if you get Cindy Walker or Hank Williams, wrote some beautiful. And then it's the way you do it. It's the way you have fun doing it. And I love musicians. Three musicians in the same room is a misdemeanor. But I love them to death. And it's always fun to go to do a session, and it's so clicked. I've always said to actors all my life, Well, if you want to get it, hang out with musicians, watch musicians. See how they blend, see how they listen, see how they listen. You can't do it without listening.
Hmm.
Can't do it. So I'm gonna have fun doing this album.
Yeah.
I had fun the other night with these guys. You show up and they don't know you, you don't know them, and all of a sudden it's cooking. It's a wonderful thing.
So definitely, it's a double album too. You want to do, right?
Well, I don't know. I was looking at it. My boy said to me, my son said, "Don't be so goddamn pretentious." He said, "Knock it down, man. Do 10 of country and 10 of jazz or pop, whatever, Johnny Mercer, whatever."
Mm-hmm.
And hell, I think I've got it down now to 18 or 16, something like that. Because you're right.
You don't want to come off as pretentious.
I do not. I do not. And ostentatious. I mean, my God, to think that somebody's gonna rush out and buy your crap. But
I count on that, man.
well, there's a first time in my life. There's a disc jockey that's a big fan. I wish I'd known him over the years.
Mm.
He's out of Ohio. Larry Ward's his name. And he said, "I'll play it to death. You give me an album, I'll play it to death." And I got 1,400 sister stations. I said, "Ooh. Well, there's a way to make money then."
Yeah.
I don't think
I'll do you one better. There's a way to make money on the internet too.
I'll bet there is if I knew anything about it. I'm from the Paleolithic period myself, dear boy. And
I got you covered. Don't worry about that. All right, let's jump back out into the audience.
Aben Cooper seems to be a really great villain. Is this something you want, type of role you want to approach again in the future, or are you just happy to have him out of your body?
Pays the same. No, I mean, you can't go around thinking like Aben Cooper, for Christ's sake, any longer. You have to. But no, I've played villains before. I mean, if I get 15 calls about mad preachers, then I will spend a lot of money on analysis. No, but it's a good role, and fun doing it. And you're to be the judge, not me. It's a hard one for me. You always hope that people like it. My God, yeah. I mean, I'm never above that. There's so many actors that I've worked with that I take it for granted. You know, that people are really going to love them, no matter how goddamn boring they are. You know, it's true. There's a lot of movie stars that can't act. They're not amenable to much, and they're not malleable at all because they have this thing they're selling. You know, sometimes it's funny, sometimes it's not, sometimes it's rotten, sometimes it's pretentious and boring. I mean, if it's personality, it's a very difficult thing to deal with for me. If people think they see themselves a certain way.
What was your first conversation with Kevin like, and did you know like who he was before?
No, I did not. John Gordon sent me the script, and with a note that said, Kevin would like you to do this part. That's all we can say for now. Yeah. So, meaning I didn't know what. So then I got a call and said, "Would you come? Would like to meet?" I said, "Yeah." Went up, and Kevin it may not seem so because he's so vociferous about everything, but he's got great ears, and but when I was up, at the time we were there and talking, he cooked me a steak. You know, cooked it good too. His wife came down very comfortable. She had something to do with the coffee. I never wanted some coffee.
Imagine.
You know Ralph Richardson, the actor. Sir
Yeah.
Ralph, wonderful actor. You will love this story because he's doing a play on the West End not long before he died. And he's in the middle of the second act. He goes down to the apron and he said, "Is there a doctor in the house?" And the guy in the back said, yes, he came running down. But Tony rose up and ran. I said, I'm a doctor. What is it? He said, Doctor, isn't this a dreadful play?
All right, one more, and then let's get out of here for this evening.
I was wondering what you thought of Kevin's doing dailies on the show, showing them to the cast.
You mean cutting and whatnot?
I kept hearing about them. Somehow I didn't see them. One day I walked in, actually, he said, hey, you want to see what I just showed everybody? And I said, okay, and I went over and he showed me. But I kept hearing them, and it just seemed to be at times, I don't know, I was putting my shoes on or something. And I never got to see it, but I think it was wonderful. I mean, it's guileless. It's a wonderful quality to have, to be able to be sure and that you love something and that people will love it, and to be free about it and not be closed-chested. I got a call from a guy one time, and I won't say his name, but he said, because his wife kept whispering in his ear every night, Michael Parks, Michael Parks. And the cameraman saying, Michael Parks can read this. So he was sick of me by the time he called. And, I mean, really sick of me. And he said, here's the deal.
Okay.
Bless him. But anyway, here's the deal. He said, be 6 months shooting, be $25,000 for the role. There'll be no script. You'll see the scenes when I bring them to you in the morning. John Huston tells me that you were a problem. And I won't say who this guy is. He was very big at one time, though. He was a big director. I said, well, listen, pal. As far as the script, I'll go with the book. Oh, he said, in building where I choose to put it. I said, as far as the script, I'll go with the book. As far as the price, my price is cheap enough. And as far as billing, you don't have to give me any. And if you're as mean a son of a bitch as John Huston was, I don't want to fucking work with you anyway. You know. And sometimes you do that, and it causes you trouble. But they never want to see what the other guy said. No. You know why Hitler didn't drink? He said it made him mean.
Well, fuck. I can't imagine going out on a better note than that.